What if I told you that smoking cannabis daily could make you nearly 4 times more likely to develop psychosis? Before you click away thinking this is just another anti-drug scare story, hear me out. Today, we're diving into one of the largest studies ever conducted on this topic, and the results might surprise you. I'm talking about a large meta-analysis published in Schizophrenia Bulletin that tracked over 66,000 people across 10 different studies. This isn't some small lab experiment or biased research. This is hard data from multiple countries over decades, and what they find challenges a lot of what people believe about cannabis safety. Here's the bottom line. Researchers found a clear dose-response relationship. That means the more cannabis you use, the higher your risk of psychosis becomes. Think of it like a volume dial. As you turn up your cannabis use, you're also turning up your risk of developing psychosis. Never used cannabis? Your baseline risk stays at 1. Use it occasionally, your risk jumps to about 2 times higher. Use it weekly? Now we're looking at over 3 times the risk. But here's the kicker. If you're using cannabis daily, especially high-potency cannabis, your risk shoots up to nearly 4 times higher than someone who's never touched it. Now, before anyone panics, let's put this into perspective. We're talking about psychosis, things like hallucinations, delusions, or losing touch with reality. The baseline risk for the general population is actually pretty low to begin with. But here's what's wild about this study. They found that this pattern of increasing cannabis use being associated with increased risk of psychosis held up across different countries, different age groups, and different study designs. It's like if scientists studied alcohol and liver disease across 10 different countries and found the exact same pattern everywhere. You'd probably pay attention, right? That's essentially what happened here with cannabis and psychosis. What makes this study so powerful is how they measured cannabis use. Instead of just comparing users versus non-users, they created a scale from 0 to 1. Think of it like a cannabis exposure meter. People who never used got a 0 and the heaviest users got a 1. Then they could see exactly how risk increased at every point along that scale. The researchers found that this relationship was linear, meaning there's no safe threshold where the risk levels off. Every step in usage corresponds to a step up in risk. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Correlation doesn't equal causation, and you're right to be skeptical. The researchers acknowledge that they cannot prove cannabis directly causes psychosis. Maybe people who are already predisposed to mental health issues are more likely to use cannabis heavily. But here's what makes this study compelling. They specifically looked at studies that tracked people over time, following cannabis users who didn't have any mental health symptoms when the study started, and the pattern still held up. Plus, they found the risk was strongest for actual diagnosed psychotic disorders, not just temporary symptoms from being high. So what does this mean for real life? The researchers suggested this has huge implications for harm reduction. If you're someone with a family history of schizophrenia or you've experienced weird mental health symptoms before, this data suggests that you might want to think twice about regular cannabis use. And if you do use cannabis, this study suggests that how much and how often you use really matters. The difference between occasional use and daily use isn't just about tolerance or your wallet. According to this research, it could be about your long-term mental health. Look, I'm not here to tell you what to do with your life, but I am here to make sure that you have the best information available. This study represents data from nearly 66,000 people across multiple decades. That's not something you can just ignore. So what do you think? Does this change how you view cannabis use? Have you noticed any patterns in your own experience or people you know? Let me know in the comments below, and if you want more deep dives into the science behind the trending topics, hit that subscribe button. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed.